Welcome back to the channel. This is Roberto Full Curl Precision again. Got home only about 20 minutes ago. It's been a crazy few days. Still helping out with some plumbing issues. Yeah, it's just been a busy week. Anyway, for tonight, I'm going to be addressing a couple different things. One, I just put out a survey, was it last night, of what barrel length should I put on my next build. Now, this one I'm doing right now is a 22-inch barrel, and I'm planning on doing a longer barrel so I can have some comparison. So far, the vast majority, over 70%, have selected that I go with a 26-inch barrel instead of a 24-inch barrel. And I believe it's over 20 votes right now, and I'm sure that's going to keep going. So it got me thinking, okay, so I want to do a 22-inch barrel for data. I might as well just go straight to a 26. Do it with my rifling and everything else too. So I was able to let me turn this around and kind of show why it's kind of good to have data for both, for different lengths of barrels. Let me turn around and you'll see what I mean. Okay, so when we look at this, right now I'm using a standard 270 Winchester, 65,000 PSI. And what's kind of cool with this program, it allowed me to use this 170 grain Berger, the Elite Hunter. And what's nice is, let me pull the mouse over here. Here's a cartridge length, so your case overall length, right? I'm able to adjust this to seat out to a certain depth. So I left it a 22-inch barrel. Twist length. It's gonna go 8. I don't know what that's gonna change anything or not. And I'm using IMR 7828 SSC. And I'm right at the line there. You can see it. It gives you 64,750. Now, am I going to ever push it that hard? No. But out of a 22-inch barrel, using that high of a pressure, I'm still with a 170 grain bullet. Look at that. 2834. Let's see. About 170 to 175 grain bullet, pushing a little, in the 2800s. That's not far off of a 7 PRC, is it? No. Because here's the thing. Let me do a little bit of adjustment here, wherever my mouse went, and here we go. If I do this, type in 24, and I'll come over here, 2902. Now, obviously, that's not going to be realistic because that's pushing it. So I'm going to drop this down from 60.5 grains to just 60 because I want it to be a little down there, right? That's still a pretty good pressure. Almost 63,000 PSI, but look at this, still 2875. That's right in there with the 7 PRC. And that's using a standard 270 case. So if I were to add volume to this, with mine being the Ibex case, then it's going to definitely change things altogether. Go back, and let's do this. So stay on there, 26, 2936. And again, that's with a standard 270. So, and this is based upon, mind you, sea level and a standard 6-groove barrel. In these numbers, they could be faster. I could be faster with this too. But, this is kind of this illustrates the point. is you don't always have to stay inside of a standard length, because most long actions allow you to seat bullets out further. Just for some reason, manufacturers don't do it. This is really where it gets interesting, because if you were to do slight changes, suddenly with that high of a BC, here it is, 0.662. With that kind of speed, you're right in 6.5 PRC and 7 PRC territory very easily. It's still a little bit anemic compared to something like a 7 Rem mag, but the fact is it's hanging in there with the PRCs, and that's the standard case. So imagine if you had the opportunity to expand that and then do things like you were talking about, change up your rifling, something that's going to be substantially more, offer less resistance, so your barrel can maximize its velocities. Yeah, there's a really good opportunity here, I think, in order to capitalize on it. And so what I did do, now pull this down, because the other thing too is, let's say I take something that I can be more comparable to, and I'm going to go ahead and scroll down a little bit. My case capacity is going to be closer to this, the 280 Ackley. So if I select that, we're going to stick with that 22-inch barrel, a 26-inch barrel. We're going to seat this out to 3.5. Okay. We're going to select. So here's the thing. The closest selection of bullet that to some of my loads are going to be right here. So a Nosler 168 grain Nosler AccuBond long range. And so we're sticking with that 26-inch barrel. We'll stick with that. We're going to stick with the IMR 7828 SSC. And we're going to then top this off to 60.5. Still got a little bit of room. Okay. 61. There you go. Still under pressure by quite a bit. Let's go 61.5. Right at there. Check this out. 3,008 feet per second with 61.5 grains of IMR 7828 SSC. So why am I going after the 280 Ackley? It's very simple. This is honestly the standard to beat. It's not the PRCs. It's not, well, the 7 Rem mag really is a standard to beat. Anytime you're building in the 27s and the 28s, you're kind of going after the 280 Ackley and the 7 Rem mag. Now, am I going to say that I'm going to completely outperform the 280 Ackley and the 7 Rem mag? No. What I'm trying to do is bring that level of performance right there, where you can get 3,000 feet per second with safe focus, with safe pressures, right? You imagine getting just right around 3,000 feet per second out of a 26-inch barrel with this bullet right there. Check that out. 168 grain. Look at that BC. 0.0652. That's a G1. G7, 0.353. So here's the thing. When I switch over to, now it doesn't show it on here because GRT doesn't have the 6.8 Western, and there aren't any other high BC 27 calibers. However, let me pull over here get away from that for a second. If I pull out this, there we go. Got different boxes. Those are the 150s. Get those out of the way. Here's the 165 grain. Okay. Pull this up. 165 grain. That's not far behind it. 0.62, 0.312. That's a 165 grain 277. So you imagine if you can get, with that bullet right there, with its good construction bullet, going 29, let's say 2950, 2925 to 2950. That's actually going significantly fast. And here's the thing. So that was based upon, again, a 26-inch barrel. So where am I? Over here. Going right over here. Now, if I type this in here, there we go. 22. And go over here. That's pretty good. 2879 feet per second. So, and again, that, mind you, that's at sea level. That's at, that's with a standard 6 groove. But that's a really solid number. So if you could feasibly push 2,900 feet per second out of a 22-inch barrel with a higher BC bullet for hunting, I consider that a solid win. That would put it right in the ballpark of like something like 6.8 Western. It really does. So what's really cool is, so the advantages of cartridges like the 280 Ackley or anything that's in the 30-06 family. Let's just cover that whole bracket, because that's really what it is. Anything that's in the 30-06 family. The advantages are that you're typically going to have less recoil than a Magnum. It's going to be less costly for ammunition. And typically it's going to be a lot easier to carry the extra cartridge in your magazine, because Magnums, and yes, I consider the PRCs to be Magnums, all of them, because if you look at their body width, they're 0.52, 0.53. Like that's really what their body width is. They're in that wider Magnum body width. So what happens is, because you have a fatter casing, you take room out of the magazine to comfortably carry, therefore you lose one round. Now, obviously, there are different types of magazines and so on and so forth, but for the most part, you typically lose a round of ammunition inside your rifle. So by switching over to a cartridge like the 280 Ackley and like the one I'm doing, it allows you the opportunity to carry the extra round with the performance. So the difference between mine and this guy right here is that mine, because it starting off with a much more common case, is going to cost you less overall. Yeah, you can occasionally find deals on things like 280 Ackley if you look hard enough online. But for the most part, most Ackley brass is going to be quite expensive. Whether you're buying factory ammunition or if you're buying brass. Even the same thing when it comes to fire forming your own, when it comes to 280 Remington. Now, is 280 Remington as expensive as the Ackleys? Of course not. It's not going to be. But it's normally more expensive than 270 Winchester because it's nowhere near as common. Let's put it this way. Of those watching this and listening and observing, how many of you have personally and genuinely got the chance to see a brand new 280 Remington rifle? Okay, the last time I saw a 280 Remington on the shelf was probably 25 years ago. That's it, and it was a Ruger M77 with a Mannlicher stock. Yeah, it was a unique one. That was the last time. That was way back in New York. I mean, like, and that was the first and only one I've ever seen on a shelf. I've never seen 280 Remington as a standard cartridge for your average hunter. Usually it's 30-06, 308, and 270, and for good reason. Uh, it really is those because they're the most affordable and they just do the trick. So my thing is, I'm starting with a much more affordable platform to develop a much more affordable overall cartridge, and that's the concept I'm going with. As much as I like the Ackley, unless you are a reloader, yeah, it's the 280 Ackley is just not a great cartridge for buying, not because of its, not for lack of performance, just sheer cost. If you even look at the majority of your rifles, they're not cheap. I think even this year, was it Kimber? Yep, Kimber. There was a few like Ron Spomer, Joseph Von Benedict. Excuse me for a second. Let me put my glasses back on. They did a SHOT Show. They went to SHOT Show and they covered a whole bunch of things as I would expect them to do. But one of them, let me turn this around, was a Kimber mountain rifle chambered in 280 Ackley. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a really good cartridge. But, here's the thing. How many people are actually going out and buying a Kimber mountain rifle? I know a lot of people will. But it's not going to be as common as something like a Savage or a Ruger or a Weatherby Vanguard, a Weatherby 307, a CVA Cascade, a Bergara B14. Just name it. There's a Howa 1500, a Remington 700, a Winchester Model 70, a Browning X-Bolt. Just name it. There's a whole slew of other rifles that are going to be available. And I think it's kind of really cool that while you can get a Savage 110 Ultralight like ordered in 280 Ackley, it's still more money. But you're going to find that there's going to be a lot more rifles available in 6.8 Western from Savage. Ones that are much more affordable. So that's really the premise. I'm looking to develop something that's going to give you that level of performance of like 280 Ackley, close to 7 Rem Mag, and competing with 6.5 PRC and 7 PRC, but be affordable. And that's really the idea. And then the other thing, too, is just having the extra capacity. Because here's the thing. I know there's going to be some guys who be like, well, it's all supposed to be about one shot kill. Yeah, that's true. It is. But if you hunt in areas like where I do, or let's say in the Midwest, or, I guess Midwest, you're talking areas where you're going to get some slightly more open shots. And where it's not uncommon to shoot, 200, 300 yards pretty easily. And you have multiple doe tags. One shot per deer. Not this past season, but the season prior. I took out a buddy of mine, and I mentioned it before, and we went out the first Monday of the season. And because weekends are occupied on the ranches we get permission on. And so we went out first Monday morning, and the ranch manager told us, be in this field at this time. Here's your shooting angle. And he was completely right. 60 deer are right out in the field first thing. And we nailed 6 deer. So he shot first, he got 2, and I shot 4. It's a good thing I had a 5-shot magazine because we needed him. And it worked out just fine. So yeah, I'm a proponent of having a good carrying capacity in your rifle, because whether it's you get onto a situation where, let's say you get into a big bull elk, you get that first shot. Well, the thing is, again, bull elk and even including moose are notorious for taking the first shot and be like, what was that? something hit me, and they just stand there. So, you keep shooting until they're down is what a lot of guys say. I've heard that with 300 Win Mags, 338s, 7 Rim Mag, whatever. And so if you're going to be in a situation like that, having multiple shots is nice. But also it's the same thing if you're in an area that allows you multiple doe tags or multiple deer tags in general. Having a higher capacity is kind of nice. So that's what I'm after, and that's what I'm doing, and I'm trying to take all these factors into consideration. And I think this is going to be a good one. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be something that's going to be not too difficult for someone who's a smaller frame hunter to use, to pack around the mountains and to be ethical with, and to not go broke in the process. Especially if you're a reloader, this is really up your alley. And the reason is because 270 brass is so common and so affordable that it's going to make it a lot easier. And then the same thing with the bullets. There's so many more affordable bullets in 27 than there used to be. And there's a wider variety than there used to be. And they're all pretty solid. I haven't hunted with the Berger Elite Hunters, so I don't know how I feel about them yet. But the one thing, I got these 150 grain Nosler AccuBond long range. I got the 165s. I got Sierras. Pull those back out here. So I got 170 grain Nosler ballistic tip. I got a 110 grain Nosler AccuBond of the AccuBond long range. 150, 165, 175, 140 grain tip Game Kings, which are known as the Game Changers. And then I have 170 grain Berger. And I'll have to look them up. Winchester just came out, introduced a new bullet. I'll have to look it up. I can't remember the name of it, but that got introduced along to SHOT Show. It's supposed to be it is a cup and core, but it's supposed to be a pretty tough bullet from the way they're describing it. I don't know what it is. I don't understand it entirely. I'll have to do a little bit more research on it. But the core is supposed to be a little bit more durable than your standard cup and core. So that's what I'm working on. Again, you guys are going to be part of this. You're going to get front row seats. Again, I'm not going to disclose all the exact proprietaries of the case because that would be silly. Just giving away free information to what I've been working on. No. But I am going to give the reloading data of what is capable of being done. And yes, the plan is to get it patented, is to get it to Sammy at some point. Is that going to happen overnight? No. No, it's not. But once I get the rifle and get the proof of concept, I'm going to imagine there's going to be somebody be like, hey, this is a really cool idea. So that's what I have for tonight. I appreciate all the support. Please like, subscribe, share, comment, hit that notification bell, share it with everybody. Whatever it is that you feel that you want to do. But I appreciate all the support. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you again.